and I forgot I wore it golfing this weekend. And I was like, oh man, really wanted to wear that for this interview.
Won't hold it against you. It's okay.
Yeah. No, well, William, it is an honor to talk with you and very excited to talk about your book. And I want to make sure I say the title just to kick things off. The Path of Duty and Honor If George Washington Returned.
Exactly,
And I
exactly.
love where it's got the novel for America's 250th year. We were just talking about how it couldn't be more perfect timing for you and JC. I know this is a co-authored book for you guys to
JC
write this
Yeah, he could
together.
not be here today because he is out in Namibia,
Wow. Okay.
a
Very
little far
cool.
from you. Yeah. But he said, send the link. So I will do that as soon as we're done.
Yeah. No, well, sounds good. Well, William, just just to kick things off, I'd love to give you the mic for just a couple minutes, and I would love for you just to give an overview of the inspiration behind getting together and writing this novel and just your thoughts behind it, the timing of it, and just how it all came together.
Okay. I'm happy to do that. And thanks for having me. Actually, it's an interesting story. In 2010, a good friend of mine who's a ABC news anchor in San Francisco, Dan Ashley, we would hang out and he said, let's do a screenplay. We thought, yeah, we could do a screenplay, make it big. He had this idea from years earlier when he was in South Carolina. He said, it'd be kind of cool if George Washington came back. And yeah, so we did. We bounced it around. We wrote a handful of drafts. It never finished and it never went anywhere. And then he got distracted doing other things, including a music career that he now has. And it sort of went on the shelf for a while. And I got around to asking him, I said, would it be okay if I try to make a novel out of it? And he's like, yeah, with my blessing, go for it. So I took the basics of what we had started, which is really just the idea of George Washington appearing, the principal characters, although they weren't really overly defined at the time. And it percolated and percolated. And I'd have these images of the book starting with George Washington in his full outfit on horseback, charging through traffic, getting on top of cars for some reason, had undefined. Anyway, flash forward a couple more years, and another good friend of mine, which is J.C. Ryan, who's a best-selling author, he's got about 35 books, and I've known him for about 10 years. And I said, look, we're coming up on the 250th anniversary. This would be a perfect time to bring George Washington back. And so we went back and forth on that for a while. I said, I don't want it to be a clone. I don't want it to be time travel. I don't want it to be a ghost. This is George Washington. It has to be George Washington. But I don't want to explain how he got there because I thought, well, that's kind of irrelevant. And as you'll see in the course of the book, we actually prove that he is actually George Washington. And I'm not giving anything away with that. But he's a little better version, though. He's about early 50s, 53, 54. He's got reddish brown hair, good teeth, which is a plus, because if you know any history about George, he had a heck of a time with the dentists. And then we needed to find a really good story to go with it. And so the idea was he's back now to save America, but specifically, he's back to actually save the president of the United States, who in this non-political novel, nonpartisan novel, I should say, is a female president. And, but you kind of get a sense of where she's coming from. But with the course of him coming back, it gives us an opportunity to really go back and dig into the history, which is itself fascinating. And so everything in this novel is historically accurate. Some of the words he says are historically accurate also, but if you ever read any of his writings, he goes on and on and on. So we had to make him a little bit more concise, but it was a lot of fun. So we sat down. Now, I'm in America. He at the time was in Australia. And so the way we would do it was video chats like this and bounce ideas. Yes, no, this works, this doesn't work. And then one of us would start the draft for the chapter. Then it would be sent to the other one who dissected, say, no, I don't, too bad, I don't like this, send it back. And we'd go back and forth a few times until we had something that was good, but also a combination of our writing styles as well.
Yeah.
So that's
Man, that is,
essentially how it happened.
yeah, that is so fascinating. And I just think your idea and what you put together is so incredible because again, just the timing and someone who follows history and it's a unique storyline and it actually really does create some thought-provoking scenarios where the main question is like, what would George Washington think if he was here today? What would be his initial thoughts on just the state of our country, the state of the
I
world, how everything
yeah,
works together, just what would his thoughts be and how would he
yeah,
walk through
exactly.
those?
I had wanted to have some ads that says George is back and he's pissed,
Yeah.
but we try to be a
Total
little bit better
chaos.
than that. But it is a dichotomy. I mean, it's an extreme contrast if you look at what these people, not just him, obviously, the degree of thought and work that went into drafting the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, to really try to guess all the pitfalls that could happen and give opportunities to correct. We've gone a long way since then, and I think we've gone astray in many areas, especially in our government, which I think we need to have some back to basics, so to speak. So this was a good opportunity to kind of do that, because how do you argue with George Washington when he comes, before a modern Congress and says, "Hey, let's chat," because, you don't, and it's him. And one of the things we found pretty much universally, the readers love George Washington. And we've been getting comments like, I wish that he was around in our time now. I wish the way he handled things was the way we handle it now. People are wanting a sequel. I'm like, we don't know about that. Bring back Lincoln. No, I think let's just, too
Yeah.
much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Yeah. Well,
So,
no, and that did get me thinking though, and not that you guys have to put this type of work out there, but each president, especially that had an impact, like an Abe Lincoln,
mhm.
it'd be interesting to bring, him back and say, "Hey, here's where we're at now. What do you think
Yeah.
about this?" Based off what you've fought for and kind of
Right, right.
some of the things he planted his flag in and made an impact. And so there's probably a handful of presidents that you could do that with, and it'd be a really fascinating story and again, thoughts on what their view would be.
You run the danger, though, that it would become like everything when you do something for the first time, it's always novel. And then you run the risk that it's going to be watered down for the sake of selling a few books. And
Yeah.
we didn't want that, which was why, for example, we don't tell you how he came to be. I mean, George Washington would say it was Providence. And I think he actually does say that in the book. But you don't need to know how he came back. It's the fact of the matter is something pulled him back. And it draws on a lot of different things like Mount Vernon and all the elements around what would have been George Washington's life. And so it makes it a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah. It's interesting too, William. I was having this discussion the other day because when you hear 1776, it kind of sounds like a very long time ago.
Hmm.
Then when you look at 250 years and you
It's a
think,
long
okay,
time.
if my grandparents lived to be 90, my parent did, like, it's only a handful of generations that have come across and been here since the inception of America. It's not that
Yeah,
many
but
people.
look at what's changed. I mean, 1776, no antibiotics.
Well, and that's the point. How much has changed in those 250 years
Yeah,
and some of the stuff you hinted at too, just some of the chaos we've put ourselves in that quick span of
right.
time as well. To where, yeah, I think everyone agrees there needs to be some change for the better to kind of get ourselves on a path that's a little bit,
More in line with the Constitution.
yeah, yeah, that I was looking for something there like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is intriguing because I think, and again, I think more people probably agree with that than disagree. And so I do think it's a fascinating, just a different way to explore the thoughts on this is having this
Yeah. Yeah.
theoretical idea that if George Washington came back, would he be proud? Would, ask Congress and Senate that question. What would he think?
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
we doing here?
Well, the
I think it's
fact that
actually a really
250
strong
years later
question.
is beyond most governmental structures. I mean, most empires don't last 200 plus years. So the fact that we're still standing is a good sign. What we do with it, of course, is a whole other question. But I'll tell you one thing that the other reason I thought it was a good story. Voting turnout's abysmal. The average person doesn't know. They couldn't name you the three people in line of succession from the president down. And one of the founding principles was the fact that it's a republic, and I don't remember which one of them said it, but it's a republic as long as you can keep it, and it requires an informed populace in order to do that. And that's, I think, where we've gone astray because we're so busy with shiny objects now. That kind of information has gone by the wayside. So it was originally intended that we were the ones to keep government in check. and then the media too. That's another story. But between those two, the government would not be corrupt because they would always be held accountable to us. But now most people feel the government is running us, and most people don't feel empowered to be able to do anything to change anything. So that was an interesting angle that we wanted to explore. Excuse me. And I think it resonates in the book because we talk about it a lot. It's like what's the line that's drawn? But and we also wanted to have a good fun book. I mean, it's a fun story.
Yeah.
George goes on a book tour,
Yeah.
and so and that's I think one of the most positive things that we've received aside from liking George Washington is just it was a fun read. They liked the read, and that's what we wanted, entertainment. I'm not lecturing you. We're not bashing you on the head with this political view or that political view, but
No, and I think that's why, again, this is such a good book because, it's entertaining, but it does also make you think, and I love books like that. And I was actually going to ask you a couple of questions of just like, what were some things that you in your research discovered that while trying to make things entertaining, may have troubled you a little bit to find out and kind of see the trajectory that's taken place. Because you mentioned something very strong there, and I agree because even with me and my friends and people I talk to about, politics, and I don't really talk politics that much, but a lot of us don't think we have that much of an impact. It doesn't seem like what we think really matters, and it
yeah,
doesn't seem like we can really make a difference, and it doesn't matter who gets elected. They're not really listening to us. So what's the point of wasting our time to go stand in line and vote?
yeah,
Well, it's a
yeah,
horrible way to think, but it
yeah.
seems that every election cycle that gets worse and worse because
Mhm.
we're not getting what we're voting
And it
for.
doesn't even matter which side of the aisle you're on because both
Correct.
sides
Correct.
feel that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
I agree. I think, again, it comes back down to people need to be involved. That's the biggest one. Nobody's involved. And you see this problem in the news all the time, not even at a government level, but at a school board level. You have the school board members are totally ignoring their constituents. There's only one solution. People have to get involved. We outnumber everybody else. If people get together, we're a much larger body of people. But right now, I think all these groups are counting on the fact we're very apathetic, be bothered. It's work. Somebody else will take care of it. So I think in that regard, it's a decay of what was originally intended. And really the question now comes down to, okay, well, that's a natural byproduct, but can they do anything about it? Can we fix it? Can the people do something about it? Because we can't count on the government to do something about it. And I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. I think we're all sort of waiting and watching.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll
The
be
alternatives
interesting.
aren't good.
No, I know. Well, and it seemed like when you look back in history, patriotism, if nothing else, could motivate people to step up and get involved. And I'm thinking even, in my era, I do remember 9/11, and I remember just
That was the
seeing,
last big patriotic moment.
yeah, the American flags everywhere, people
Yeah.
together. And I've lived in certain cities where things happen, and you see people rally together in a little bit of a smaller way. But even now, patriotism, it's almost been you gotta be careful even to put an American flag out because someone
Yeah.
judges you for a certain way, and you're like, "Well,
Yeah.
hold on a second. We're all here together, and it's the greatest
Well,
country in the world."
they've given it a label, and a part of that's a political label,
Mhm.
and so if you are patriotic, you have to be conservative.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. I mean, and it's also unfortunate you hear so many people in this country, it's like, "Well, what's there to be proud of in America?" Well, the fact that you can actually say that is
Yeah.
point number 1. So because go try that in some other countries.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think it's complicated and difficult but I hate to say it because if you look in historically, we band together in bad times. So a world war or, terrorist attack. I mean, but who wants that? Do we need
Yeah,
to call on that in order so we all get together again and act normally? I don't, yeah, there's got to be a more logical way than that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm asking these questions all kind of geared towards your book and wondering what George Washington, if he was to stand up in the pulpit and have
He
some sort of
does.
magical speech to
He does.
unite the country, what would that look like? And what are some things
Yeah.
he could say to get everybody on the same page
Yeah.
to want to move forward together? It's a very noble thing to think about and want and it makes you want it to happen.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
want George Washington to come back, and let's see what
right.
this you see what he can do because, yeah, it feels like it would take someone like that to be able to really
Yeah, yeah.
turn swing the pendulum, sort of say.
Absolutely, yeah. The nice thing, we introduced him with a couple with a bunch of other people, obviously. Nathan's an author who actually wrote a book called By George, which has in it a controversial thing that George Washington had an illegitimate child, and he's making bank and book signings, and he's the one that actually finds George Washington and is connected to him, and Nathan's 15-year-old rebellious son, Tommy, and then a news reporter, Sarah. So the three of them sort of wind up developing a relationship with George and help each other through finding out why George is there, which leads them through an interesting path. But I think what also resonates with readership is that interaction, because if you meet a celebrity, for example, most of the time people are in awe. They don't know what to say. They forget, oh, it's just a human being that puts the pants on the same way we all do. Okay. Because you've got that label. And so here we've got a big celebrity. I mean, George Washington is a big celebrity. And so we get to deal with him, though, on a human level as though he was a roommate. And so you get that added benefit of really getting to know the guy in a lot of different ways that you wouldn't if you read about it in a newspaper, for example. So, and I think that's the other fun part is it's a growth that they all have together. And then, of course, he finds out why he's there. But there are a lot of other interesting little bits along the way. So,
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah, it's fun, and the history part was fascinating too because we did a lot of research on it, and that included, and this of course you can do nowadays because with AI and the internet, you can go to a location you haven't been and stand in front of something you will never see and actually get that. And so we were able to do a lot of research on that, and that included, I mean, I found some interesting things not in the book. George Washington died; he could have lived. He wound up going out in the cold, wet weather, and he got inflammation. What's that thing at the back of your throat called the epiglottis or
Something
uvula? It's
like
got,
that.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the name, but anyway, it puffed up and blocked his airways. And so, of course, back then, what they would do is bloodletting. So they're draining your blood to try to take care of the demons or whatever. And they wound up taking 4 pints of blood out of him. I think we have like 5 in us. No, pints or quarts, but no, I don't remember actually.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, 4 out of 5 of his blood was gone. One of the doctors, he had a team of doctors, and one of them said, "Well, let's, he's not breathing. Let's put a hole right here." And they said, "Oh, no, no, that's too dangerous. It's going to kill him, right? Tracheotomy, right? It would have actually saved his life. But the downside was if he had an infection from that, they didn't have antibiotics, but I mean, it was a better shot than what he had. So basically, the poor guy bled to death and was so weak and didn't put it in the book. It wasn't cheery,
Yeah.
but but
No,
anyway, the
that's
history part was just fascinating and the locations. And when you sit down, for example, Mount Vernon, the size of Mount Vernon today is only a shadow of what it once was when he owned it. So things that we don't know that we just superficially see over, so or
yeah.
gloss over, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna ask you what were some things that you learned through your discovery that shocked you, or what are some things you learned that most of us would never know or take the
I would
time.
say shocked. Entertained would be a better word.
Yeah.
The man was okay. So imagine the real George with the gray hair and the bone teeth and couldn't really eat at the dinner parties. He hosted a lot of parties, and he was a good dancer and a great entertainer. And the interesting thing was people would just come to his house and stay for weeks. And he wrote down, he said, I'm a public servant. I can't tell them to go away. And while they're there, he's feeding them. And basically it's coming out of his pocket, right? So a completely different set
Yeah.
of times, but a fascinating guy. So
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah, you
interest,
can't
actually
do
well
that now.
educated and just generally an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can't just go hang out at the White House.
no, I mean, or any politician's house or anybody,
Yeah,
yeah,
or
let alone
anything.
they're going to feed you.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely not. You'll walk away in handcuffs at the
Yeah,
very
yeah,
least.
yeah.
That is so fascinating. But yeah, it just talks you just think about the different era and time and just people and the way we interacted. It's just there's so much different to it. And
But it
it's
was
just
civil. It was very civil. You wrote
yeah,
letters, long letters to people, and, you had long letters thanking them for being, so gracious when you were there, and
yeah.
It was slower, but more in depth. And now we seem to be faster and superficial. And I'm not going to send you a birthday card. Just a happy birthday text is good enough. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, different times, but
Yeah.
it's nice to go back and visit it because when you see the point of origin, you get a sense of what should be versus what is. And I think individually, if we start thinking about that kind of stuff, we have an impact because it'll affect what we do. So this 250th, I mean, we knew that there were going to be a lot of celebrations, and so we wanted to make sure we got the book out in time. But we've also sent the book out to a bunch of people, including the current president and a lot of radio personalities and things like that, because all these people are talking all the time about patriotism in America, and it's like, here you go.
Yeah.
Have a good read. Didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask for publicity. Just here you go. I mean, it's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So
You said that you've had a lot of positive feedback
mhm.
and from people who have read it. I'm curious to know, just from your personal standpoint, what's been the most rewarding part of putting this book out there? And what are some things, maybe even unexpected feedback that you've gotten that you really have enjoyed hearing from people?
There's been quite a wide range of it, but I think the one that both JC and I really enjoyed. We got I think two or three actually. It brought tears to my eyes, and it's like, okay, for that to happen, it has to hit an emotional impact, and that's good. And that means we did something right. And beyond just, oh, it was a great book, it's a great story, but that kind of thing with an emotional resonance, yeah, that was extremely positive.
Yeah.
But it was joyful to write, and we found ourselves sitting there enjoying it. And we would have probably 2, 3 times a week, we would have a Zoom call like this and discuss it and talk about our different perspectives. And of course, meantime, we had ARC readers going through it and sending us, oh, you made a mistake here and things like that. But it was a very enjoyable experience. And I think as it progressed, it also became an emotional experience, which I think then comes out in the book itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No.
I was sorry to see it end.
Yeah. No, I can imagine so, because again, I it's probably a lot easier to write a history book. You can go find the facts, you put it together, you put it out there, but to do the kind of same amount of research, but put a twist on it and get creative and put some imagination to it, and I can imagine that's just such a different, more refreshing, exciting sort of process to where you kinda get lost in the story and
Yeah,
you wanna create something, and I can imagine it's like a great movie when it's over, you're like, "Dang, that was awesome," like,
and
and
that's
that's
what
probably why people are wanting a sequel, like, keep this
yeah,
story
but
g
see, that's the same thing, like with great movies, it's like they always ruin well, not always, I take that back, but most of the time we'll ruin it with a sequel.
Yeah. No,
And
just
I
leave it
don't
how it
remember who
is.
said it many years ago, they said, "End it with them wanting more is perhaps
Yeah,
the best thing you can do."
yeah,
And I
I
tend to
agree,
agree. Yeah.
I agree. You always want to want more, and I think that's a great way
And
to
I think also, well, I'll give you a good example. So Star Wars is a good example. I saw Star Wars in 1977 in the theater. Blew me away, right? And now, of course, you've got
I can't keep up with them.
9 films, 5 or 6 TV series, there's 150 books. I can't look back and go, "Gee, well, episode 45 was really fantastic," you know? It's like, I remember episode 1, it was good.
Yeah,
2 and 3 were okay. They were good too,
I've had
but
the
yeah, I
same
think
thought.
so less is more.
That's right. I've had the
Yeah.
same thoughts. I saw the new movie and I was like, "I don't even know what number this is." I'm just
No.
not interested.
At some point, and that's what it numbs you out and it loses that appeal. I think this is why books like, Dune, which were so hard to make into movies, were so popular because it was very immersive and very difficult to translate into a different format. Unfortunately, they've now done that with multiples as well.
Yeah.
That's just the
No.
world.
Well, maybe just leave yours as it is and let it have its moment for many, many, many years to come.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, that's the plan right now. We're actually working on another series, so which is, more not historical, it's just more entertaining,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well,
I don't know what we would do if we had to do a sequel.
yeah. Well, no. Well, when you have your new work come out too, we'll have to have you both on
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talk
it'd be
about
great.
that,
Yeah.
as, I'm sure it's just as exciting. But William, one more question for you. This has been fantastic, by the way. I
Yeah, me too, thank you.
again, when I saw your book, I was like, this is what I've been needing. I need one of these books this year
Yeah.
to
Yes.
get excited about. And I am excited. And I think a lot of people will enjoy this, especially because this episode is going to be coming out right around 4th of July. I think it's timing. But William, one more question. I ask everyone who comes on the Books for Guys podcast this question, just from a book recommendation standpoint. I'm always curious what people have enjoyed reading or what they like to recommend to others. And so my question to you is, what is a book or two that has meant a lot to you personally or professionally? And what's a book that you love to recommend to other people?
Well, I think in terms of, I like a lot of different genres, but I go back to Dune by Frank Herbert as probably a really solid book that you really, once you read it, and it's hard to read because it's pretty long and complicated. I like books that have a little bit of a twist to it. There was a movie that came out a handful of years ago with Ian McKellen called, what was it called? Mr. Holmes. Okay. And it was about Sherlock Holmes' latter days. He's like age 90 something. But it was based on a book called A Slight Turn of the Mind, which was really, really good. And the movie and the book are almost identical except for the very end. But I always tell people read that one too, because it's interesting, whether you like Sherlock Holmes or not, because even if you've never read the character before, it's about an old man who's with dementia that's slowly losing it, who used to be a really brilliant guy, and how he tries to compensate and spend the remainder of his days. So it's a good book and a good movie.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. That sounds fascinating. And I know it's such an unfair question because you could answer that so many different ways based off what year it is, where you're at in your life. There's always books
Well,
that mean more
and
to
what is a good book? I mean, years ago in college, I read The Gulag Archipelago by Solzhenitsyn, and that was a good book.
you.
Oh, it's a good. No, it's actually is a good book, but it's a difficult read, and it's also massive.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting, William, because it's been pretty cool as like my reading journey, how each year I seem to challenge myself a little bit more in picking up different books that maybe like that one where it's a little bit of a tougher read.
mm,
Which is also why I like fiction books so much now, because I need a break sometimes from those tougher reads. But the
yeah,
the
yeah.
ones that make me have to, maybe I can only read a page or two at a time, and maybe I need to reread it. But it's just something that challenges the way I think, or provides me with information I've definitely never known or been interested in before. But it's been cool. I would have never wanted to accept that challenge probably even 5 years ago. But the more I read, the more I kind of want to challenge myself to get something a little more difficult.
Let me throw one more in there because I
Yeah.
know when we get done with this and I chat with him, he goes, "You didn't mention my book."
Yeah.
J.C. Ryan has well, he's got several series, but one of the series is the book is called The 10th Cycle. And it's a bit of a sci-fi one. And the premise behind it is that we are not the first iteration of humanity, that there were various cycles before us. And through whatever circumstances, they didn't survive. And the whole premise of the 10th cycle is that the people in the ninth cycle decided to try to leave a message. And good book. You're talking about ones that get you into, it's entertaining and not too heavy. It's a good one.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. I feel like Joe Rogan had a discussion about that recently too.
Yeah. It's coming back in a lot of discussion about origins and yeah, we
Yeah.
make certain assumptions about our place here.
Yeah. I love deep diving in rabbit holes like that
Me too.
conversation.
Me too. Yeah.
But William, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And
My
we're
pleasure.
honored
Thank you.
to spotlight your and JC's book. We've got it on the website.
Okay.
And we're going to make sure people can see it and all the show notes here too for those interested in purchasing and reading it. And so, William, I wish you guys nothing but success with this book, especially as we do get to the 250th birthday of America and just all the stuff that'll be, celebrated around that. And your book will be a part of that coming out this year. And I just think again, I think it's something that is needed. I think a lot of people will find enjoyment. It'll also create some curiosity and
I hope so. Yes.
some intellectual thinking about some things, and
Yeah.
I just
I,
think it's fantastic work, and I can't wait to see all the success you guys have with it.
thanks for having me on. It's been a
Absolutely.
pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks, William.
Take care.